Ապագա հայկական համաժողովի աշխատանքները շարունակում են նաև մեր հարցազրույցները եւ հիմա մենք կխոսենք Հայաստան-Սփյուռք միասնականություն հանձնախմբի անդամ Լևոն Աֆեյանի հետ. Good afternoon, Mr. Afayan. First of all, you can see here the zip version of Armenian people, of Armenia at all. Okay? What are your impressions?
Very positive so far. I see a great need for people to get involved. I think I see a great need of people to express their concerns, to look for solutions, to understand the problem first of all, and to hope to come up with recommendations, guidelines as to how we should move ahead. So I think I'm very positively impressed so far.
Okay. Today we are discussing one of the 15 goals, the historic responsibility. And what are the results? Do we have some results now or not yet?
It's early for results.
It's early.
I'm involved in one of the tables as an expert, but the conversations are very lively. They're very engaging. I think some ideas are coming out that are making the others on the table interested in thinking and giving it more thought and forcing them to address issues that normally we take for granted, and that's a very positive sign. And we'll see what happens in a few hours, I guess, as to what we come up with.
Actually, we don't have a deepened culture of debating. So how the work is going on? Do they can debate?
I must agree with you. As a diaspora in Armenian, when we come here quite often, we do notice that there is a lack of debate. Yeah. There's a lot of discourse. There's many reasons for that. We can blame the Soviet culture of silence and etc. But nonetheless, it's never too late to change. Again, a democratic process involves discourse. It must be debated. It must be discussed, even if we don't agree with. And in fact, what better person to discuss something with than someone who doesn't agree with you? Well, that should be
we
the
think
person.
That we are right, everyone else wrong, and we don't like debate, we don't like discuss anything. So this is also a huge problem for us because we are in crisis. Obviously, we have crisis, pan-Armenian crisis. So we are discussing solutions, right? Can we make some solutions without government? Is it possible? Or all solutions, everything that we're discussing here and define problems, we can do that with government, or should it do government itself?
Yeah, it's a good question. You see, for me, coming from the West, government is the people. People elect governments. People put governments, and they mandate the government to do what collectively they desire. That's the concept of democracy. So when the government's in place, obviously it's their responsibility to do what they promised to do, which is why they were elected. Again, I think that public discourse is the key element in all this. These discussions will eventually, if it becomes contagious, if the word goes out and people do start talking about it in coffee shops and on dinner tables and family gatherings, university schedules and public debates, once that comes out, it becomes part of the social psyche, both in Armenia and in diaspora. Very importantly, both. These difficult times you're describing, it's very difficult for diasporans as well.
Sure.
The result sometimes is very negative. They say, well, we don't want anything to do with Armenia anymore. I would assume and argue that the opposite is more logical. The more you disagree, the more you're disappointed, I think the more you should get involved, the more you should get engaged, the more you should discuss.
To find solutions.
To find solutions, not to withdraw to your little corner and say, oh, things are not going well, I'll go backwards. So this is hopefully a good example that we can bring diaspora and Armenians together. We can bring both genders and professions and religious, lay, etc. together and have public discourse, and it must continue.
The general question about diaspora. Diaspora, as well as Armenia itself, we're very, very much diverse people. In diaspora, you can see people from Armenians from after the genocide, people after collapse of Soviet Union. They're totally different people. Is it possible to unite all of them? And what we can do, especially today?
Well, let me first say, today we were encouraged to disagree. I must disagree with you. We are not different people. We're not very different. We're a little different. But so is an Armenian from Argentina different from an Armenian from Australia. An Armenian from Greece different from an Armenian from France. That difference is minor. I want to first declare that we're one people. And once we become one people, then we have an interest to play on the same team. And those people can then come together. So I respectfully disagree that we're different people. We are the same. You and I are both Hai. That's what we are. And it's the same blood, same ethnicity, it's the same
history,
background,
culture.
the same history. We sing the same songs, we read the same history books. So we are one. We just have to start acting as one. And I think it's doable if we just discuss the fact that we're one people.
Can we define the right and the most useful relations between Armenia as a state and diaspora? So what is Armenia for diaspora and what is diaspora for Armenia now? What is the right thing to do in this aspect?
I'm looking forward to tomorrow's discussion, which is in fact the Armenian diaspora, and that's the committee I was working on. For the diaspora, Armenia must be the hub. It's the center. I've often spoken about Armenia-centric or Armenian-centric philosophies in the diaspora. For the first 80 years after the genocide, maybe even more, the concept was Armenian-centric. We gathered around the concept that we were all Armenian. Since independence, we may have lacked behind the times. We did not switch that fast enough. In my opinion, what gathers all Armenians together, the commonality, their ancestry, is the fact that we're related to the Armenian land, the Armenia itself. And we must own it internally. We must say, this is our country. You know, I was born in the Middle East. I was born in Lebanon. And when people ask me, you know, where are you from? I can't not say I'm Armenian. I must say I was born in Lebanon, but I'm Armenian. And they say, well, do you have family in Armenia? And I used to say no. But early on today, when I came here and I met so many of my friends, I said, you know what, from now on, I'm going to say yes. I do have family in Armenia. They're the ones. This is my family in Armenia. And if the Sphյուռք takes this attitude that everyone here is part of their family, then I think Armenia will also feel the same way about Sphյուռք, about the diaspora, and say, we're one family. We need to create this oneness. And we don't have that today. You're right. Today, we can, diaspora sort of considers Armenia as being, yes, it's important. For example, we use a lot of the word Hayrenik and not Hayastan. We say Hayrenik Armenian but how do you translate that to English? Why don't we say Hayastan Armenian right? So I want, that's
because
what we have to
used to live without state.
Perhaps, yes. And this is what, once diaspora gets their act right and starts looking at Armenia saying, with all its deficiencies, with all its problems, it is after all what makes us Armenian.
So how to define the most important scope of being Armenian, of the most important thing that can unite Armenia and diaspora together? Is it possible to define some sort of, I don't know, language or Artsakh or genocide issue?
Years ago, we had a conference in Montreal. We called it the definition of the global Armenian. There was a lot of talk about global Armenians, and so I decided to ask about 60, 70 university graduates, Armenian origin, or some others, how do you define the global Armenian? Is there a possibility that we put together one sentence that defines an Armenian, that anyone in the world will read that and say, yep, that's me. Can we make that definition? We worked the whole day on that. It was difficult. Heavy discussion about culture, language, tradition, customs, religion. And at the bottom line, at the end of the day, the most common attachment was Armenia.
Yeah.
The attachment to Armenia was the primary item which was common denominator in all the discussions. Nobody could say, I mean, when they said religion, they said Christianity, Apostolic Church, and there was someone who said, what about Armenians who are atheists? Well, that's true. What about Armenians who've converted to Islam? So what about Armenians who don't speak Armenian? What about Armenians who have mixed marriages and the cultures are mixed? So everything was diluted at the end, except for their attachment to Armenia. So I think the uniting force for all Armenians around the world, again, will have to be Armenia. And that's why I'm here.
Mr. Afen, thank you very much for your interest.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you very much. Ես հիշեցնում ենք զրուցում էինք Լևոն Աֆեյանի հետ, պարոն Աֆեյանը Հայաստան-Սփյուռք միասնականություն հանձնախմբի անդամ է, իդեպ Քվեբեկ նահանգի պատվո հիպատոս, ճիշտ ասացի։ Հայաստանի պատվո հիպատոսը Կանադայի Քվեբեկ նահանգում։ Շնորհակալություն պարոն Աֆեյան, մենք շարունակում ենք հարցազրույցների շարքը, նաև ինչպես տեսնում եք, քննարկումներն էլ շարունակում են, երեկոյան արդեն կունենանք հստակ արդյունքներ։